Welcome to America's Policy Podcast. I am your host, Cassandra Alessio, and this is episode 22. I wanted to go over today a little bit more about property taxes and home buying and legislation in regards to how I think a lot of states are realizing that property taxes are affecting the home buying process, and what is going on or what we hope to see the future in regards to condos, townhouses, HOAs, and I think that's going to be probably a bigger topic in the upcoming years because there's a lot more luxury apartments and condos and townhouses being built, which I would probably argue is not the best idea. But I wanted to first show you kind of an idea. I want to share my screen with you so I can just go over why I think it's so important to look at this. Okay, so I just pulled up just basic Zillow. I have access to the MLS, but I'm just going to show you Zillow just for an example. Now, I want everyone to understand, or what we hope legislators understand, of why condos and townhouses are probably not the future. And the reason why I argue that, now it'd be interesting, I didn't really look up the history of why they started being developed. Maybe there was a need for more housing in certain areas, so it was just maybe easier to build these buildings. But let me just show you, for example. So I'm going to take away houses, I'm going to take away multifamily, lots, lands, apartments, and manufactured, because that's going to be something different. So I'm just going to show you an idea. Let's see. Lots, lands, take away apartments, and manufactured. Okay, so I'm just going to do townhouse and condos, right? And I'm going to make sure that I don't need coming soon, and I don't need auctions. Let's see what else. And I'm just going to make sure I'm going to hide 55 plus communities for right now, just to show you what people are experiencing when they're purchasing houses. Now, right now it's just zeroed in on New Jersey because that's where I'm from. But let's start off in New Jersey since that's where I am from, just to show you an example. Now, again, everything you have to take with a grain of salt. Sometimes it is accurate, sometimes it is not. But just to try to explain why I think we need to step away from condos and townhouses, and let me show you why. Now, let's see. I'm just picking a random one, Butler. And this has nothing to do with the people selling it or purchasing it, but let me just explain why this is such an issue. So let's see if this is one that would be a problem. Now, we always have to remember that, look at this, $9,746 in property taxes, right? And that does not include, let me see if it says exactly what let me see, $475 a month HOA. That's where the problem is. Now, again, it's 2-bed, 3-bath, beautiful property, had nothing to do with the property, but this is what we're dealing with. $475 a month on HOAs. Now, I would argue HOAs just do not work. And I hope we see in the future that they go away. Honestly, I do. I hope we see less and less of townhouses, less and less of condos. And I understand why it's better to buy that than it is to rent, because people are saying, at least I'm building equity, and that's 100% accurate. But this is what we're dealing with. $475 a month, in addition to $9,746 a month in property taxes. Now, this is the reason why. And you don't even get land, right? Maybe you'll be lucky if you get a little patio. So let's see. Let's look over somewhere else. Let's look over here. Ramsey. Well, no, we don't need to look at the pricing. It doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, it does matter, but for this argument, it doesn't really matter how much the house is. I just want to know what the HOAs are. $354, again, $354 HOA. Let's see how much the property taxes are. $6,995. Now, again, better, but still extremely, extremely high. Now, let's go over maybe a little more to the right. Let's go over here. Old Japan. I don't know why this is coded as a townhouse. It's a regular house. Let's see. Let's go over here. Waldwick. Looks like a townhouse. Let's see. $400 a month HOA. $400 a month. And then, let's see what the property taxes are. $14,601. Oh, okay. This one I want to keep over here. I'm going to put this over here. $14,601. I'm writing it down. You probably don't see my screen, but I'm just typing it up. And I'm just going to put, I think it's 400 HOA. I'm going to keep this for an example for later. Okay. So this is what we're dealing with. Now, again, New Jersey is very expensive. Our property taxes are insane. So let's move to another state so we're just not fully biased. Okay. So let's go over, I don't know. Let's go over, come on. It's a little slow. Okay, so let's Charlottesville. Let's see. A condo, 1.8 million for a condo. Wow. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what the property taxes now. The property taxes are probably gonna be a lot different, but the HOA, again, $348 a month, right? So roughly around the same it is for New Jersey. Now let's see what the property taxes are. 7,471. That's still really, really high, especially when you're looking at just a condo or a townhouse. You don't even have a backyard in a lot of these places. Maybe you're lucky to have a little patio or a balcony. This is what the crazy part is. Now, again, HOA is different from one area to another. So do I think, and listen, I will say I'm not an advocate for HOAs, but do you think it is really worth $400 a month or $500 or $600 a month? Now, there's some places that probably be even more, right? For what you are getting. Now, let's look over here. Let's just look at Florida now, since we're just trying to go over all the places just to make sure. Now, this one's a smaller townhouse, so this one might not be so bad. Let's see. 235 HOA, not as terrible as other ones, right? But still pretty high for what you're getting. And property taxes are practically nothing. So this one's 1,668, which I think is very fair. Maybe a little bit high for looking at that you don't have any property, but it looks like from the pictures you do have a patio, I think. Let's see real quick. Now again, so it looks like there's like a little, I guess, patio here or balcony. Okay, so that's Florida. Now again, every part's of Florida, because if you probably go over to a different part of Florida, let's go down more to the Miami area, it's going to be a lot different. So let's just go over here to Miami. 249. Let's see where else. I can get a little bit closer to right onto the beach. Okay, let's see. 299 Miami Beach. Okay, here we go. Now these prices are all over. We're not really looking about the prices. Okay, why isn't one just come on up? Okay. Just one set of condos. Now, does this look like for sale? Doesn't give an average price. Okay, so let's do in the middle of 225,000. Let's see. Does it have the HOA? 734. Wow. That is extremely, extremely high. Now, again, I don't know. Maybe it's not extremely high for that area, but just in general, when we were looking at HOA fees, I don't think they're justified in asking for this much. Let me see what the property tax is. Not really high, $2,792. But again, is it worth it when you don't even own your land? Now, again, some people choose to buy townhouses and condos, so at least they're building equity and they're also don't have to worry about an outside. Maybe they don't want an outside, or maybe they don't want to have to worry about these capital projects. But typically when you rent a place, those capital projects or those big expenses are already I guess included in your rent per month, whereas the HOA kind of does a little bit of both, right? So sometimes you'll have an HOA that only pays for lawn maintenance or pays for maybe the garbage, or maybe it's the roof, or maybe not, because then a lot of times you'll get these extra fees, like in addition to your HOA monthly fees. Now, again, I don't know if this is every state, but a lot of times they'll charge an extra fee. Maybe it's extra $200 for the next 10 years because we decided to repave the sidewalks, or we repave the driveways into everyone's section of the condos or townhouses. So what I think is important is to understand that maybe HOAs are not the future. And we see a lot of discussion in regards to smaller houses and zoning laws. And I plan on doing an episode on zoning laws because every town, every state has different zoning laws. Some are better, some are worse. It just depends where you live. And I think it's important because as we see the economy change, and whether it's for good or for worse, we don't know yet, but I think we need to be a little bit more sustainable. And I think it's hard to be sustainable when you have an HOA. I think people are better off when they have a little piece of land, a little part of their own house, and they maintenance it themselves and worry about it themselves. Now, again, that doesn't mean to remove all these condos and townhouses. I just think that for the future, I think we should build less of them and less of the luxury apartments and more of, if you're going to pick something or for smaller, so people maybe don't want or can't afford the bigger houses, I think smaller houses are more for the future. Or maybe the 3-unit houses, right? So maybe you and 2 other people buy 3 units together, you buy one and rent the other 2 units. Like maybe that's the future instead of having these 50-unit condos and townhouses and these extremely high HOA fees. And that's on top of the property taxes. And what's the funny part is you don't really own the property. I mean, yes, you own the property in the sense that you own all the 4 walls, but you're not outside having a garden or whatever you're doing. So yes, you're situated on their land and the HOA is going to pay the property taxes for the entire building. But you have to wonder, is that equating to what you're getting in return? So let me show you. I just want to go over, maybe I could show it this way. I want to go over some numbers just to give an explanation of everything that we went over. Hopefully this works. If not, okay, well, let's see. Hopefully it works. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. We have condos and townhouses, and I put houses. Now you could see everywhere is different, right? So you might have your property taxes could be $7,000, right? Or they could be, let's see, they could be 6,000. And then you have your HOA, it could be 400, 350, 700. And now, okay, so these are property taxes. These are HOAs. All right, and then housing. Housing, you do have your property taxes, right? So your property taxes. And then you don't really have an HOA. So you're just going to have maintenance of your house, right? We're just going to maintenance of your house. Now, if you think about it, property taxes on a house, again, every state's different. So we're just going to go with the area around the 14,000, but we're not going to go as high. So just 8,000 to 11,000. Now that's not everywhere. Maybe your state is more of like the lucky ones where you have like 2 to 4 or 2,000 to 4,000, right? Maybe you're in those lucky states. So let's see, 8 to 11. Now maintenance of house. Now I'm just going to say the HOA, what an HOA would typically cover is maybe the grass, right? Shoveling if there's in a snow area. Grass, shoveling, maybe covers the water. Okay, so we're just going to do this. Maintenance of your house. So maybe the grass, I mean, maybe you're only doing it 3-4 months out of the year. Maybe it's say $300. Maybe you buy a lawnmower, it takes some time, or maybe you hire somebody to come and help you. Shoveling, we'll do another $400. Maybe you have a little extra snow. You need a snow blower. Now, again, this is, you might have to invest. So maybe you invest in a lawnmower. Maybe you hire someone. So this is just approximate. And then water. Water is so difficult because, okay, I'm going to take water out of this one because it's going to be a little bit difficult because there's different types of water systems and different costs. But even if you're at the 700 mark, right? So $700, but that is for the entire year, right? This HOA is monthly. So let's see, 400 times 12. All right. Handy dandy calculator. 400 times 12. 4,800. Wow. Okay, so 4,800. Okay, or let's do 700 times 12. Let's look at the more. Now, again, I don't know. Sometimes these HOA fees are hard to understand because every unit might, or every building might have something different. So you have to take everything when I say with a grain of salt because 8,400. Wow, okay, 8,400 because you don't know. Every building is different. Now, again, luxury apartments and condos and townhouses might work for some people. It's not to say that we shouldn't have them, but I think for the average middle class person and the person trying to get into the housing market, I think that they just don't work well. And I understand why people pick them. They're lower cost, right? Your mortgage is a lot lower. So your mortgage, not all the time, but primarily lower, right? Because and this is higher typically because they're smaller, right? So look at how much this is a year, right? So if you're looking at 8,400 compared to 700, you're like, why would I even need an HOA? Because you have capital projects, right? You have capital projects. You don't know what they're going to be made. And I'm just calling them big projects, right? So something that involves a lot of capital, roof, I don't know, sewer, or like sewer lines, sewer systems, electricity, plumbing. And it just depends on what maybe you want to use hot water tank or whatever else. Even if with those capital projects, which if you went and rented, they would probably charge you a certain amount of money that would be going towards a savings account that would pay for this. But even if you yourself said, okay, I'm going to save $100 a month, right? So I'm going to do $1,200 a year to save these capital projects, right? Maybe this is the extra. It's still going to be less than your HOA. And that's what the mind-boggling part is. Now, I understand why. Again, people go here. It's not that people have a choice sometimes. They're looking at how much it is. They're looking at the $200,000 mark, the $300,000 because of the mortgage. Maybe they can't get a higher mortgage. Maybe they can't afford the mortgage payment. Whereas the houses are a lot of different, right? You might look at the $500 mark, or depending where you are, $700,000 mark, or maybe $250,000 if you're in a low cost state, right? When compared to maybe like a 50, I don't even know, like $125,000. Because I did see a house in one state the other day for $125,000, or a condo, sorry. So this is what the problem is. And I think, I'm going to see if I stop sharing. Okay. I think that's where we need to kind of address. Now, there's legislation coming up, and you see it more and more and more. I don't know what's going to happen, but I wanted to show you, this is just one, and they're small legislations, and that's totally normal. This is how it works. But let me show you, this one's in Ohio, I think. Ohio, let's see. Okay, hopefully you can see the screen. Okay, Ohio, right? 2025, 2026. Now, to amend sections of the revised code to authorize an enhanced property tax homestead exemption for certain long-term homeowners. Now, I didn't read through this, so it might be something very specific, right? So, applies to any of the following person permanently and totally disabled, person who's 65 years of age or older, a person who is the surviving spouse of a deceased person who is permanently and totally disabled or 65 years of age or older, and who applied and qualified for reduction in taxes under this division in the year of death, provided the surviving spouse is at least 59 but not 65 or more years of age on the date of the deceased spouse dies. Now it's going to go on and explain everything, and I'm sure it'll probably be amended because I think this was just introduced. I have to look and see when it was introduced. It's in House Committee. So there are legislations, or there are some that are being introduced. You see it in Texas, you see it in Ohio. You're starting to see it more and more. I think in Florida too, we went over. So it's interesting because property tax is a huge problem, 100%. But maybe the way we design and the way we do zoning is also contributing to it. So I think it's important that we really, really evaluate allowing so many condos and townhouses. And maybe the future is having subdivisions, right? You subdivide into smaller lots. So everyone has a little piece of land. They're responsible for their smaller house. So it solves the bigger problems. What are the 2-3 big problems that people have when they own or an apartment or they own a condo or townhouse? No backyard, no driveway, no parking, and there's no storage, right? So those are the top issues that everyone always complains about. And that's why they have storage units and storage facilities. And that's why a lot of people rent out like the basement of these buildings to each of the tenants. But maybe we need to change that. Maybe the way real estate's working is not townhouses and condos anymore. And it gives you space too. You don't want to have to be sharing a wall with everyone. Now, again, this is not for everyone. And what works in one state might not work for another. But there has been a huge problem, especially when we're hearing about the food shortages and the high cost of food at the supermarkets and everything. Maybe we need to kind of revert back to being a little bit more self-sufficient and being able to produce some items at home. And hopefully there'll be some more legislation in the next few weeks to address these issues and see what's going to happen with the future of property taxes. And then maybe hopefully they can get into zoning. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, americaspolicypodcast@gmail.com. If not, I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.